That he really liked me, you know, and I was like, whoa, the man of God likes me. Oh, you know what I mean?
Spiritual father recognizes me.
I was like, oh my goodness, this means that literally I am on my way here. You know what I mean? So sometimes he would join in when I was singing, play instruments. Mind you, he plays every single instrument there is. Every single instrument there is. I don't know how, but yeah. So he would join in at times. And can I speak in Zulu a bit as well?
Yes, you're more than welcome.
Then emva kwesikhathi esincane nje ngisahamba kulela sonto. There was this one time, right? This is when things started getting hectic. I wanted to go to a meeting in Durban and I didn't have money to go, right? And I knew that, you know, there was this elite group of young, beautiful woman, this baby of beauties
at church,
always around him, specifically at church, leaving with him, coming into church with him, just always doing these little things for him, like bringing him water, snacks, whatever he needed, even during services. And I knew that these people stayed somewhere with him, because of, you know, obviously the movement. So on that weekend, right, there was this couple from my branch. They really, really loved me. They believed in my singing and whatnot. And they found out I didn't have money to travel to Durban for this all-important meeting. Like going in that kind of environment for church, you feel like every meeting is important. You can't miss
absolutely.
Exactly, you can't miss a single one, right? So I had to go.
And also when you're young, you're highly impressionable, so you don't want to disappoint like anyone at that point.
And also like this is my thing, you know, people had like hockey and netball and what. This was my thing. Church was my thing, you know what I mean? So I called them and they organized a bus ticket for me to get to Durban. And I didn't think as far as what my plan was when I got to Durban, you know. I'm just thinking, let me just get there. And then I'm on the phone with this guy, telling him, I'm on the way. Then he said I could come and stay with them. His words were, you can come and stay with us here. And I was like, oh my God. Am I being promoted? Am I being
a part of the elite group of
from
girls?
Like the regular, schmegular church member to like the
royalty.
Girls. Exactly. Yo. At that age, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. I can't wait to get to Durban. I got there and I felt so important. I felt so, you know, love bombing. Just love coming, like just putting your guard down, basically. So that's how I felt. And the next day, that's when I saw all my fears that I had in my mind. You know, when the chatterbox of a mind just keeps going and going, raising red flags, you ignore them. When something happens, it becomes reality. So that weekend is when the first incident happened. And you know, I still shudder.
When you think about it.
I feel sick to my stomach. Because I remember the sensations, you know, when an unsolicited or unwelcome touch just lands on your skin, it just, you'd carry that with you. You know, I even have problems today if someone touches me on my back or something like that. It triggers a lot. You know, there are certain scents and certain words that people say or certain habits that still trigger me. But yeah, that weekend was when it all started. And it was as if I went into autopilot mode. You know, shock does this thing where you just keep quiet. And you just take on the blame for something you have nothing to do with. Something you have no clue about.
Absolutely,
So that's what happened. I just immediately, I decided that this is all on me. This is my fault. This is happening and this is my secret.
I caused it to happen,
Exactly.
I can relate with that because when I was molested when I was younger, there was a family friend that would always come. So it was always at a time when, so my gran is an ordained pastor as well. So she had like a lot of mentees that would come and come and have a conversation with her, and so she'll basically help them. So this young man would always come to come and be mentored by her, and then he'll go. But like he realized that I lived there, and I think at the time I was 12.
Wow.
And he then started coming earlier than when he'd know my grandmother would be home. So he'd come like an hour early. I'd open the door and he'd wait for my gran and things like that. So then he started unsolicited touches and everything like that, and he'd start calling me to sit on his thigh. He'd tell me to touch and things like that, and he'd touch, and it would be all of those kinds of things. And I think it came to a place where I think that happened on 3 occasions, and I think on my the 4th time when he came, I decided no longer to open up the door, and he never came back ever since then, and I never told my gran at all about it. And exactly what you've described exactly was what was happening to me, because I felt like I allowed it to happen. I did touching. It was naughty. I'm not supposed to. It's dirty. It's naughty. And I can't tell like my gran. And at that age, it's like you're not even thinking about how it will affect your gran. You're thinking, yo, batlon shaba.
Exactly.
Like you're still for what I did. I can relate.
Exactly.
I can relate.
I think it's the different ways, especially the different ways in which we're raised. Boys are raised differently than girls.
Girls, yeah.
Girls grow up with a whole lot more rules to abide by than boys. So boys grow up with a sense of entitlement. Things just happen at home. Wake up in the morning, the house is clean. Wake up in the morning, breakfast is ready. That's happening. Your clothes are washed for you. Whereas when you're the girl, all of those things are done by you. You're the person who has to make it happen. I was watching Surviving R. Kelly.
Yes, I wanted to bring that up. Yes.
so triggering.
Dude, how did that affect you?
You know what? One of the ladies who was speaking there is the founder of the hashtag Me Too movement.
Yes. And
she was talking about how we take on the shame and immediately silence ourselves as soon as something happens, because we are raised with all these precautions. Don't dress like this. Don't stay out at this time. Don't let a boy... if a boy touches you here, then it's bad.
Absolutely.
And then she mentioned something so it got me thinking. We tell girls, we give them all these precautions, but then what do they do if a boy happens to touch you there? What do you do? Are you to blame? Because all they know is it's bad. But why is it bad? Is it because I'm bad, or is it because he's bad, or we're doing something bad together? You know what I mean? And it got me thinking. Just about a whole lot of things. We need to change the way we raise kids. We need to make things more equal. For those who believe in gender roles, do what works for you, whatever you prefer, but things need to be as equal as possible, so that people's perceptions are changed, so that men understand where we're coming from, and it's easier for them to understand. Because I think also when you just can't see from another person's point of view, you can't force yourself to think from that level of consciousness.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the show in general, Surviving R. Kelly, was...
I feel like that was like a perfect description of what happened to you girls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Perfect description.
With him having to have girls living at the house, him controlling when they eat, when they don't, and all of that for me literally brought me back to your situation.
Yeah.
Was it like literally like the same thing? And like when you were watching and listening, did you feel like, oh my God, I was living with R. Kelly?
Remember I told you earlier, I have delayed reactions.
Yes.
So I'm very sensitive. I take in a lot of... I'm affected by external stimuli. And those things affect how I go about my day. So watching that for me, the first one, I think part 1, right?
Yeah.
I remember after watching the first episode, I broke down.
Sure.
Like I was in the bathtub, right? I was in the bathtub and all of a sudden I couldn't feel my joints. I couldn't feel my body. And I literally just fell into the bath, and it's just a blur, because my mom helped me out of the bath. She had to, finish off
Yeah.
And I spent all night just crying, bawling, screaming.
Cheryl.
And I was in her arms the entire time. For me, thinking of it from a personal point of view, it just explains how the people around you, the people that love you the most, the people that care about you, that feel like they didn't protect you or do enough, how much it affects them. You know, I think they feel just as much pain.
Yeah.
Because when I'm having a bad day, or when I'm just triggered by something, and now I'm acting out at home for no reason, they don't know what they've done.
Yeah.
It's because of that one thing. You know, if I'm crying about one thing, it becomes crying for all the things.
Absolutely.
If I'm angry at one thing, I become furious at everything else, you know.
Sure.
So it's really tough. It's
Sure.
really tough learning to work around triggers and just not be as angry and not take it out on people who haven't done anything to you, and not have your guard up all the time.
Yes.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
But that's the reality. You
And
know.
how old were you when you came back home?
Well, the first time.
Yeah. So there was the first time, and then
Yeah,
you'd gone back and you
so,
came out again.
Yeah, it's this stupid thing that we do as people who've been abused. We tend to go back to the people that have abused us, be it relationships or family, whatever
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
Because it's something familiar and it's something you know.
Always known.
So now if you're in a safe place, you're like, okay, this is safe. This is weird.
Yeah.
You know, let me go back. So I was, how old was I? I was 16, turning 17 that year. Yeah. I was starting out in a new school, a new environment, because from Secunda, the Bundus,
Yes.
to Springs, which is like a taste of Josie.
Yes.
It was just so fast. All these kids had done things that I'd never done before.
Yeah.
You know, they were talking about things, having conversations I'd never had
Before, yeah.
you know, but it opened me up, and I think for a while I just felt like, wow, it's so nice to be free.
Yeah.
It's so nice to be young.
Sure.
Look at me, I'm going out now, you know, things like that. I'm talking to boys, because while I was in the church, I was not allowed to have any kind of communication with boys.
Sure.
You
were in
you know what, I couldn't even look in the direction of boys. It was like,
Sure.
it was so intense that even during offering time, if a seemingly attractive young man was approaching the offering basket, I'd have to look away, or like twiddle my thumbs, or like do something. You know,
Yeah.
that's how intense the mind control is. So
Yeah.
it was me just easing myself into just like normal life, because I've been
Yes.
living in a bubble, exchanging BBM details, like, yo, Joshua, I can have your BBM. Like I can't believe this. You know what I mean? It was so. It was
Hectic,
amazing.
yeah.
I went so crazy that year.
Sure.
A lot of firsts for me that year.
Yeah.
That was the first time I came back home.
Yes.
And then after a while, because you know, when you leave, my mom took me out, right, of the church the first time.
Yeah. Shout out
So
to her.
it wasn't
How did
fully
she fight
all
for
me.
you? Did she talk to you and fight for
Moms
you?
know,
To come? Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
She would come and drag me out.
Sure.
I was like, no, Mom, don't let the devil use you. You know what I mean? Don't let the devil use you.
Yeah.
Like, I eventually convinced her to just let me go to church. But then she would, as a parent, you know, she would see me not being
yourself.
normal.
Yes.
You know, she would see me writing silly SMSs like, I'm going to the shop to get bread, mayonnaise, sugar, blah, blah, blah. I would have to send the full grocery list, right? Report all of my movement.
Batung.
I would have to say when I got off the bus and when I got home, and if I went to the shop and I didn't get the mayonnaise from the list, I'd have to mention that, oh, by the way, I didn't get this, but I got, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Every single, it feels like, and I think psychologically, it feels like there's an eye on you.
Yeah.
And you sort of believe that you're being watched all the time.
Like Big Brother.
You know, exactly. So she would see those things, these funny phone calls that I'd get at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'd get woken up by this guy
Sure.
shouting at me, Angithethe about, oh, you're talking to boys. I don't know how he would know. Or maybe he understands how people operate that much.
Yes.
You know, because when you're a psychopath,
you're
kind of really smart.
Details.
Exactly, the very, very nitty-gritties. So my mom would see all of these things and she would not understand. And I'd always defend him, say, no. All the things you're thinking of are not true.
Yeah.
Especially because I thought she would die, you know, if ever she said anything bad about him or found out. There was one time she found contraceptives in my bag. I didn't even really know what I was doing with those.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to take them. I'll just swallow pills. And for a person who doesn't have a boyfriend, as someone who's not of legal age, you know, all those things were red flags to her. When she found them, I was like, no, they're for losing weight. You know, my friend told me they're for losing weight. And, you know, she understood that that was a BS reason.
Absolutely.
But all of those things just built up to a point where she was just fed up. Said, listen, if I die, honey, for taking out of this church, I die. You know, I will die for you.
Sure.
Yo, my mom. Yo, she's my best friend. She literally just put herself on the line. And that obviously trickled over into me leaving for the first time.
Yes.
Until I eventually went back.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
And how was that going back? How was your feeling? Did you feel like, because your first feeling when you left and you were at school, it was the feeling of your firsts and also a feeling of, I'm free. I can literally do whatever it is that I want to do. And then going back to what's familiar and the restrictions and stuff. How were you able to like transition back into the box when you were in freedom?
It was difficult because during my time outside of the situation, right, I had managed to kind of cut myself off, or at least try and attempt to cut myself off from everything. One thing I couldn't cut myself off from was my sisters, you know, the people that I used to sing with in the girl band.
Yes.
After that was formed, I missed them. Sure. I missed singing together. Yeah. I missed how we sounded.
Yes.
It's just an extraterrestrial feeling, you know, singing like that and sounding like that and being so in sync with these people who you met in this place, you know, who aren't even related to you. I missed that.
And you all went through the same thing, so you were all each other's support system?
At first, I didn't know.
Oh, hectic. That. Okay, yes.
You know, it felt like I was the only one. It felt like I was the only one because that's how regularly I was being like summoned, how regularly this was happening. So when I left, right, the first time, I kind of faced reality and I started developing this anger towards him, right? I started feeling like I need an apology. I need closure. I need to see him again.
Sure.
You know? And it's crazy, but that's what I needed. I needed to go back. So I'd been communicating with, you know, my sisters from the band, and they were telling me, oh, you know, things have changed. He's better now. He doesn't do all the things that he used to do before. And though I couldn't be too sure what exactly they were talking about, because I felt like it was just you know.
Yes.
I thought to myself, how I interpreted was, oh, so he doesn't abuse people anymore. This appointment situation isn't happening anymore.
Yeah.
And by the way, I really do need to see him again and look him in the eye and get my apology. I need him to tell me he's sorry.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I went back, and it was such a surreal feeling. First of all, seeing those girls after so long.
Yes.
It was very emotional.
Sure.
All of the new faces that were in the house. It was like, wow. So I get there, right? It was during a crusade in Port Elizabeth when I came back. I was now 19. And I go up the stairs and go to his room. There he is, chilling in his usual position. And I was just overcome with emotion.
Sure.
I can't exactly pinpoint what that emotion was. It was just emotion that pushed me to tears. I went beside him. Where he was laying on the bed.
Yeah.
And these other ladies, well, the ladies who are with him now, and a couple of others were there. And as soon as I got there, you know what he said? He said, "I forgive you."
What? Are you joking?
Ooh, girl. If I can tell you, ne?
Wow.
It felt like crushed ice going from the top of my head to the soles of my feet.
What?
I felt so cold and so numb. I was like, damn. So he's not sorry. He's not sorry. Nothing has changed. And you know what is even worse? This time around, he was so much more vulgar.
Sure.
This time around, I knew, you know, all of these girls are being called.
Yes.
It was never just me.
Yes.
He's going around spanking people. You know, he's
reckless now.
He's making sexist slurs in church, and people are clapping hands.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So at that moment, I knew, like, I'm screwed. And I'm stupid for coming back here. What was I expecting, really? Was I really expecting this guy to say he's sorry? Cheryl, you know? So I stayed. I tried to force myself to accept this new familiar reality.
Yes.
You know? Because I think abuse is painful, ne?
Yeah.
But like realizing that actually this happened to me. You know, when you realize that something bad happened to you, that's painful.
Very.
When you come to terms with it. So yeah, I felt like I'm screwed.
Sure.
But I didn't stay for long.
Did mom come to find you again?
No.
You left for yourself this time.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'd been communicating with her, and I was protecting her from what was happening. I wasn't really communicating it, but she knew. And I didn't want to tell her because, you know, I was scared I might get a "I told you so, I told you shouldn't go back there," but you know, she would never do that.
Yeah.
But that was my fear.
Yeah.
So I devised a plan. I mean, after staying there May, June, July, August, I had enough.
Sure.
And I couldn't hide my disgust. I couldn't hide my disapproval anymore. I think you get to a certain level.
Absolutely.
Where you're just fed up.
Yeah.
And you just, you know, put your fingers up
Yeah.
to everything.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you for leaving.
Thank you.
And leaving for yourself this time. Like,
thank you.
I think it was also the feeling of like you felt like you could have done something more to change things. And I think you have now that you had when you started and decided to leave, you then had that feeling of there's literally nothing I can do here to change anything. I am going and I am done.
Yeah.
And you left for you.
Yeah.
And that's powerful. That's the way to leave.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I think I don't blame people who are still trapped in that kind of situation. You know, that's why after I had come out, there were a lot of things that were being said by some of the girls that were still there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of posts happening. Oh, she's lying. She's a slut. She's this, she's that.
Yeah.
I was angry and I was hurt, but at the same time, understanding the situation, I knew that, you know, when you're brainwashed that way, I can't blame them. For those who are still there, namanje, I can't completely blame them.
Absolutely.
It's a stronghold over you, psychologically, emotionally, and in every other way, you know. So it takes a lot to get to a point where you can
leave.
You can leave. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank
for
you.
leaving.
Thank you.
So now, when you then got back home after everything, how was your relationship with your mom? Did it go back to what it was, or was it a new kind of relationship that's developed between the two of you guys?
My mom and I have always been close, you know. I think the only things that caused rifts between us was me not wanting to wash dishes when I was like, you know, in primary school. But we've always been close and maintained that closeness, even though I was in psychological exile, you know, isolation. She's always been on my heart. She's always been my heart, and vice versa. So there wasn't really, it didn't feel weird or anything. It just felt like, oh, I'm back home. You know what I mean? Obviously, she had to deal with the aftermath
of everything
that had happened with me, very supportive. You know, I'm so lucky to have
Sure.
the family that I have, who's very supportive, very non-judgmental. I can talk to them about things. I can talk to my brother about things, and he's a guy, you know. I talk to him about things that sisters don't talk to their brothers about.
Absolutely.
So I think that just that cushion, that comfort, that support that I got from her, my brother, my little sister, especially because these are the people in Pila Nabo, you know.
Yes.
Who know me when it's black, when it's blue. Who know all the corners of Cheryl.
Sure.
You know, they made it easy. They made it better.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's where the strength started coming from. Because I knew, you know what, even if people call me this and that, even if one day I decide to speak about this and do something about it, stand up for myself, and people don't believe me, these three people have got my back.
Yes.
You know, and they're the most important.
That's good.
So yeah.
And how was your then? These are 3 last questions.
Yeah.
How were you able to then relate to guys and to boys after the fact? Like, how were you able to find yourself having to speak to a guy and want to have a relationship with him and everything?
You know, someone who's been sexually abused can react in one of 2 ways. You either like close off.
Yeah.
You know, or you go ham.
Yeah.
I went ham. You know, I went crazy.
Yeah.
My relationship with sex has developed a lot, thank God.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. In the beginning, you know, when I was the one who was in control, it was a power thing for me. Because I'd been so weak and so emasculated for all these years by this one person, that now I had the power. You know, I could tell this person, this is happening, and it's happening
right now because I want it.
Yeah, you know. In retrospect, in hindsight, I realized that, you know, that was me trying to just find my feet, trying to gain control of my body, because my body wasn't mine for so long.
Absolutely.
You know, and it was a way for me to show affection, show interest. You know, which is really sad, because you show interest by getting to know someone. You know, you talk for a while. For me, I felt like love is not an option without sex. You know what I mean? If sex is not involved, then I can't love you.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's very deep.
Exactly. It's taken a lot to go from that place to now. Okay, I want to love you first.
Yes.
You know, I want to get to know you. I'm interested. You're not just an
object.
You know what I mean?
I love it when women say that, but I know it's wrong. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I've heard a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, I dated guys whose feelings I hurt because I was dealing with my own things.
Yeah.
But I've also been able to acknowledge that and go back to them and say, listen, you know, I'm sorry. But sure, that I think only now, after the big thing happened, you know, I was able to fully check myself and abstain, you know, sexually and abstain from other addictive patterns and behaviors that I developed to cope.
Yes.
Because even sex had become an addiction of sorts. Alcohol, you know, and many other things that I don't want to talk about yet, but I will maybe someday.
That's good, yeah. And I'll be here to help you with that conversation.
Yeah. So it's been a journey, just going from that to being able to just be my own person, and not being defined by who I'm with or what I'm doing. I define myself now.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's a really beautiful space to be in.
It's stunning. I love it. Yeah. And I just wanted to ask, you know, when we're speaking about the relationship with sex, I've always wanted to ask that question, and I ask it a lot to a lot of women, and especially women that are like us, that have gone through sexual abuse, is how could we stop it for young women, psychologically? How do we teach our young ladies about sex in a way that it is empowering to them, and not in a way that they are to be submissive? You know what I mean? Yeah. Because with what you said, with your reaction having to leave and you then relating to boys sexually, for me, it's a glitch for me, because I'm just like, yes, you're empowering yourself sexually and you're taking your power back. And my question is how do we relay that to young women to know that sex is not for men only? Sex is also for you as a woman. You have the right to also be pleasured in as much as a man, because I think how we were taught, and especially as African women, and so many women have been taught that sex is for the man and you are just meant to lay there, and that's just what it is. And with women, we don't necessarily even have the sex talk when we're young. It's always the guy that has the sex talk with her, you know what I mean?
And it's so easy,
and they have the sense of entitlement sexually towards women. How do we as women, how can we, do you think, have conversations with young women about sex in a way that it is empowering to them, that they don't feel like they are objects and they're meant to be submissive, that they also have the decision they can decide that, no, I don't want sex today, I don't feel like it, or yes, I would love to. How do we give them the necessary sexual tools to know how to be sexually proud as a woman?
I think for me, the approach when it comes to having that talk with girls is a lot different than it is with boys. We tell girls that if you lose your virginity, we base their value on their hymen.
Absolutely.
That's all she is. That's the beginning and the end of her. Between her legs, which is very unfair, because they walk around thinking, okay, if I want things to happen, if I want to go in this direction, then I'm losing something.
Yes.
And I think that's the perception that needs to change. Yes, it does feel like losing something if maybe you're abused and you're in that kind of situation.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now if you're making the decision on your own, and it's what you want, you're not being pressurized into it, you're not losing something. You're gaining something. You know what I mean? And I think for the most part, women, people say it's weak, but I think we're so strong that we take on burdens that don't belong to us.
Very good.
And even, when it comes to sex, we think, oh my gosh, this person must be the one who's pleased. And, even if I don't, get there, it's fine because he's happy. That mindset needs to change.
Yes.
We are worthy of pleasure,
yes.
And sex isn't really that great until you fully understand your body.
Exactly.
I think for those of us who've walked the walk, it's easy to say, but learn your body. Explore yourself. Find out on your own what makes you tick.
Absolutely.
And sex will be much better whenever you do decide to go for it. I think for me, I enjoy it now more than ever because I understand my body. I understand what I need, what I want. I know how to, angle myself.
Also to direct,
you know what I mean? So I think the core of this is just self-love. Love yourself first.
Absolutely.
Just pour into yourself, explore yourself, be so obsessed, immersed in yourself, young woman, that whoever comes into your life needs to match that.
I love that.
Needs to love you and wants to pleasure you as much as you can do for yourself. And I think that way you'll enjoy sex a lot more.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Sense.
You have, honey. And then one last question. A lot of the time I ask a lot of people that come and I ask them what their spiritual practice is. And I was so impressed because when we were talking before we came in for our interview, you still came to speak about your relationship with God. And the reason why I'm so impressed is you never allowed what happened to you in such a sacred space to, deter you from your spirituality and your connection and who you are with God. How were you able to do that? How were you able to keep that to yourself? And how were you able to, have a distinct line, between basically creating a line between what church was and who God is to you? How were you able to get to that place?
Because my personal relationship started when I joined the church, right? After leaving the church, it was a bit tricky for me because in my mind, I was like, okay, without the church, I can't have a relationship with God, right? So I was hanging there, somewhere in the sky. And then that uncertainty turned to anger at God.
Sure.
I was deterred for a while. I was angry. I'd ask him why, and at some point, I believed there was no God, because how can there be a God while these things are happening? But then I realized, I can't confuse God's goodness, God's plans for my life, which are to prosper me, to give me an expected end, a future, with people's intentions.
Sure.
God and people are not the same. People have their intentions. God has his plans.
Come on.
And I think I found comfort in just realizing that I didn't force myself to get to that point. I wasn't rushing anywhere. I allowed myself to realize, God has my back. And from then onwards, because I was able to have a relationship with God outside of church and realize that he actually hears me and stuff, I was able to open myself up to other things. I also believe in my ancestors. I pray to God, because I have the right. Who's to say that that's not good? I decide what is good, and I think that's the conversation with belief, that whatever feels right in your heart is what you do. You know what I mean? As long as you're not hurting anyone, and filling and pouring into yourself, then you're good to go.
That is so good.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so powerful. I think that is so great because, I'm at the same place as you, and I think spirituality is something that is so personal for you, and I think for the longest time people have dictated what spirituality should be, and it's up to us to take on the baton and then define it for ourselves with our God, and I love that you did that, so well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we might need to have another conversation on spirituality. I think it's quite important. But thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your heart. Thank you for your wisdom. Before you go, do you have anything else that you'd like to say that you feel like wasn't touched on in the conversation?
No, I think we've gone in all directions. I just want to thank you for having me today.
Dude.
It's so important for us to have honest conversations and not be afraid to be vulnerable, because our strength lies in those vulnerabilities, you know what I mean? So thank you for this, and I just hope you keep doing it.
I'll do my best. I will. It's so hard, but I'll do my best.
Girl, you're natural.
I'll do my best. I have anxiety issues, so
same.
This for me,
Same. I was driving
really
here.
bad. Me too.
So many cars.
I mean, I even have my cannabis oil in my bag.
Does it help?
It really helps with anxiety. Can I tell you? A lot.
Okay, we'll talk about that.
Okay, we'll talk about it offline. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your heart, your spirit. You really filled this room. I feel Lindo can attest to this with so much happiness, so much positive energy. And the way that you were able to relay your story was really very authentic, and it was in a way that is true to you. And I love that you did that in a way that was, it's like you shared it in a way that was protective of you as well. You didn't neglect yourself. So you speaking about self-love, you did love yourself first in this conversation, and I have to admire and respect that. Thank you so much, Mami.
Thank you.
Hey siblings, thank you so much for joining into this conversation with your heart and your spirit, and we hope that you really enjoyed it. Please let us know what you thought about it and give us your 2 cents and tell us on your side, what is it that triggered you and what related with you and resonated with your spirit. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your ears. And honestly, I can't wait to hear from you. If you're looking for me, my handles are at _L. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook as Linda Sifumba and on Twitter. Bye.
Yeah. Make a boom boom.